I want you to circle this, remember this, maybe in a month from now when you're doing this show again, and JT's going through a rough patch where he's struggling and picks up 1 point in 6 games and everyone wants to trade his ass and hates him. Just remember his importance to this team. And you know this. I mean, you've watched this guy, you've played against him. I just think he brings so many intangibles to the table. And when they named the captain, I thought he was just the perfect guy. I covered him in junior. We talked about Joe Wall. Nothing phases John Tavares. And I think you look at the body of work production-wise in his career as a Maple Leaf. I think he's lived up to the contract, dude. Year in and year out, A, he's been healthy, and B, he's produced. I don't know what more people can want, but again, it is Toronto. I think he's built for this market.
Yeah, and I think the issue is they have, three other superstars / stars in Marner, Matthews, and Nylander, right? So I think he goes underappreciated, right? And we every year, I think 2 or 3 times, oh, what's going on with JT? And I look at the stats, and he's at a point a game or just under a point a game, and I think people don't really understand. It's tough to be a point a game player in the National Hockey League consistently. And yes, the foot speed isn't what it used to be, and it's not a forte of his game. But you look at that game yesterday, they could have easily been down 2-1, 3-1, 4-1, but he scores that big goal with that big tip. So he makes plays. He goes to the hard areas. He's not afraid to get to the net. He's really good at the bumper guy on the power play as well. He's playing the flank as well. So for me, he's come as advertised. But I think he goes underappreciated because there's 3 other guys. But if you're in Columbus or if you're in some of these other markets, a San Jose, you're gonna be like, man, I wish I had a John Tavares. So I think it's an abundance of richness of the forward group with Toronto that has him be underappreciated.
Yeah, and I give him credit because he wanted the smoke by coming home, and he releases the whole picture and all that, leaves Long Island. He's still hated there like 6 years later. JT wanted that smoke, dude. He wanted that smoke, and I'll always credit him for that. Like, it takes the right person, A, to want to come home, B, to come home, to be the captain of this organization and this franchise and produce. And I don't think he'll ever get the credit for that. It's like in the playoffs, or it's whenever, when he's going through a rough patch, when he looks slow, it's like next man up, right? It's just this market. Like, I have people texting me on a daily basis, where's Mitch Marner? I'm like, can you relax? It's 6 games into the season, but that's this market, right?
Yeah, and I had an opportunity after I had my career year of 40 points to sign with the Maple
Huge.
Leafs, and my agent's like, dude,
Really?
he's like, they can bury your contract on the way to burying 5 more of your contracts. So we highly advise you don't sign in Toronto because one thing goes wrong, they could bury. So there's that pressure, right? Where there's that pressure to win. There's the media, and you're either really, really liked or you're really, really, really not liked in Toronto. There's not really a middle ground with the Maple Leafs. And, I've had buddies over the past where they've been offered an abundance amount of money to come and play, but they can't necessarily handle the scrutiny that comes with it, right? And, I play with Brian McCabe, and when I was with him in Florida, we always talked about the Brian McClutz, where he was on the front page of the Toronto Sun because he crashed it. Like, what other market is that where you're on the front page of the city newspaper because you fell into the net? Like, so it's tough, and it takes a special kind of person. It's specialer than me because I couldn't handle it. So for him to do that and jump into the limelight head first and saying, this is my city, I want to be the captain, I want to be the guy that rights the ship and rights the wrongs of 40 or 50 years since winning the last Stanley Cup, that shows what type of person and leader he is.